This week's episode is brought to you in part by MPix, delivering the highest quality prints and products from your photos. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow.
This week I'm going to use Photoshop to show you how to create a very cool spotlight effect.
And I have a design effect that takes advantage of smart objects with text.
And I'm going to show you a quick tip on how to get creative with stacking filters in Photoshop.
And I've got a quick tutorial on how to be able to do tinting with black and white images, and it all starts now.
Welcome to PhotoshopUser TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
Hey everyone, welcome to another unexpected episode of PhotoshopUser TV, brought to you in part by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And that magazine.
That was very unexpected.
I weren't ready for that. Because
you
hardly ever do it.
Magazine. Yeah.
It's not like you've been doing how many episodes? 200 and what is it?
260 too many. So, welcome back everybody. I'm Matt Klaskowski. Dave Cross is right next to me. And then also on the show today we have RC. Hi RC.
Hey everybody.
What about me? You just said hi to everybody else. You didn't say hi, Matt.
I said hi to you this morning.
But not on the show.
We share an office. We sit
We had
2
breakfast
inches away
together.
from each other.
We do. We have a wall separating us, but
It's a 2-inch wall.
it's a 2-inch wall. All right, and Corey Barker is over there in the control room.
Indeed. Well, monitoring the satellite coverage of the show right now. Yes. Looking good. Looking
The
good.
7-day forecast, Doppler
absolutely.
radar looking good there.
Everything's all good. Yeah, good.
Excellent.
Well, hey, we've got all our cool tutorials for you. One quick thing before we get started is, as you may or may not know, one of our sponsors for the show is the NAPP, and NAPP has Photoshop World. That's their annual conference, actually 2 times a year. So is that semi-annual or
quasi-annual?
Something like that.
Biannual.
Biannual. Anyway, so Photoshop World is coming up in Orlando, Florida. It is March 29th, 30th, 31st. Yeah. So the last 3 days in March, first day April. So we hope you'll come out there and join us, and of course we'll have a prize that I'm pretty sure will probably include Photoshop.
I would say so. And it's particularly important you do this quickly, because the next couple of days, the deadline for the early bird where you can save $100 is coming up in the next couple of days. So be sure to go to photoshopworld.com. And quite often there's some extra little specials. If you dig around, you might find some extra little goodie to entice you to sign up. So
You get a free,
something.
free stuff.
Free stuff. And then you can come and see us all there teaching.
Speaking of teaching, I think I have teaching to do.
You have some teaching?
I have some teaching to do.
Good, because they want some learning. So
Okay, they
do
want
teaching.
they want some learning. All right, so here's just a cool little trick that you can do inside of Photoshop. This is an image that I did a full tutorial on how to do this in my layers book. You can kind of see he was on a white background, and then put him onto a different background. Not all of these effects, but one of them was the spotlight in the back. So originally there was just a light back there, but go in and add a spotlight. So I actually taught this tutorial. I was looking back through my tutorials. I taught this like 2 or 3 years ago on how to do something similar to enhance the sun. Like if you had some of those they call them like the God beams that come out of the sun. So how to enhance that, but it works really good as a spotlight trick. So what you do here is you're going to go to your adjustment layers. You're going to go to gradient, and we're just going to pick black and white, and click OK there. You need to change your style to angle, and that's what kind of gives you this like circular kind of a thing. And then click on the gradient, and we need to make some changes to it inside of here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change it from solid to noise, and that automatically gives me this cool burst effect. Now I got to hand the tip off for this one to Calvin Hollywood, because I used to mess around with the RGB sliders in here and try to get like the perfect color and saturation. And I saw Calvin do a tutorial, and he changed it to HSB. When you do that, now you pick exactly the color you want. So this was a very yellow kind of environment. And then you pick the saturation of that yellow. Come in there. And then click randomize a couple of times. And you'll start to see, let me get a little bit more color into this. There we go. So you can start to see as I add more saturation, it gets more yellow. And the more color that's in there, the darker the color, the more color you'll pick up. So once you get it to this point, honestly, the best thing to do is I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click OK again. I'm going to change that blend mode to screen. So now I can see through it. I'm going to go back into it, because now what I can do is come in here and just, first off, let's put it where we want it. There we go. And you have to be inside that gradient fill dialog to even move it around. You can't move it around independent. But what you can do at this point is just keep clicking randomize until you get kind of the effect that you're looking for. And you're going to see a lot of different ones here. So I'm actually, that one's pretty cool. So we'll click OK. In fact, let's add some more yellow to it so it gets yellower. And then if you want to make it, if you want to make the beams more pronounced, you increase the roughness. If you want to blur them a little bit more, you decrease it. We'll leave it right about there. And click OK. Click OK once again. And of course, you're going to have to mask all this away. So I'll just very quickly Alt-drag the mask I used before. But now you have that little spotlight effect in the background. Now, I do want to show you, this was all manual, and it's kind of cool. But there is one plugin that does a lot of this for you. It's pretty neat. It's from Red Giant Software. It's called Null Light Factory. And I mean, I used to use this. This plugin came out. I mean, it's 10 years. I mean, I used to use this with Photoshop 3 or 4 or something. But it's got a lot of really neat settings over here. And then, of course, you can control the brightness. You can control the scale. You can control how much it zooms in. And even the randomness of it all. And then finally, you can come over here and control the color too. So you can change all those things. But I mean, you could see it's got the lens flare. It's got all that. So it's a little bit more realistic what we did. So you can find that over at Red Giant Software.
Very cool. I like the fact that when you change it to screen, and then you could start playing further to really interactively see the results of the, you know, so you see what you're getting. So
and I have to tell you, I didn't put that into the layers book when I was teaching, because I just started doing that recently, where I used to try to get it just right in the dialogue the first time, and then I realized if you change it, then you can really see how you want it to appear.
Very cool. All right, well, coming up soon, we're going to do some other tutorials and contests, but first...
You gotta love how
I know, because the teleprompter is like this faded blue thing, but I know that RC's doing something next. I was just giving you a foreshadowing of coming soon. We'll be having other stuff.
Screensaver was on.
But right now, here's RC with a tutorial tip thing.
So let's go ahead and take a look at this. What I want to be able to do is just kind of talk a little bit about how to do black and white treatments with images. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a file here on the desktop. We have a picture of a rock. I like to call this rocks in water. So it's from a trip that I did in Yosemite. And one of the things that I was talking to somebody about, and they were just like, oh, you know, the black and whites look really, really cool. Black and whites look really, really cool. And more often than not, I'm using a plugin to be able to do that. There's that Silver FX Pro. But I wanted to just kind of just give you guys a quick tip. If you don't have that, how to be able to kind of just put a little bit more oomph into your black and white images. And a lot of the times it has to do with tinting. Let me show you what I mean. Here I have the background layer, and what I'm going to do from here is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to select black and white from this list. Automatically, that turns it into a black and white layer, obviously. Now, I can single click right here on this targeted adjustment tool, and then click and drag and make some stuff brighter, some stuff darker. And that will also make a cool black and white image. However, it's not going to necessarily make a great black and white image. For that, I often think it's probably a good idea for you to be able to kind of tone it a little bit. And that we can do with tinting. If you go into the tint side, this is going to look a little bit like a specific, like kind of like a dingy yellow color. I want to say it's sepia, but it's not really a sepia color. So I tend to stay away from like this yellow type of tone. But what I'll do is this. I'll grab this gray color that's here, and I'll put it just off to the right. So it's really, really dark. It's not black, but it kind of has a hint of warmth to it. Now, once I do that, I click OK. Now take a look at the same image. I'm going to go ahead and just zoom in here, and you'll see before, after. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this, make another copy of it, and I'm going to take this effect, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the tinting off. So this one, that's what it looked like without black and white, without any kind of tinting. And that's what it looks like with a little bit of tinting. So it does help it quite a bit. From here, if I wanted to be able to finish it off, I'd probably would take all of these here. Let's see, I don't want to get rid of this black and white. I'll merge these two guys out, and then I'll probably just go and go to Sharpener Pro and add a little bit more sharpening to it. But sharpness and a little bit of tint will take those black and white images and really make them pop. So a little bit of a tip there for you.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool black and white. Hey, we have Dave's tutorial still to come. We have Corey's tutorial, our contest, all that fun stuff. But for now, we're going to take a quick break. Well, welcome back, everybody. And we, of course, still have Dave's tutorial, Corey's tutorial, but very quick. On the road, Dave Cross is going to be, you're going to be taking the Photoshop
Power User Tour.
Power User Tour to Arlington on March 17th, and you're going to be in Phoenix, is it, on, what is it, 21st?
Something like that.
Somewhere
it's actually
near
the
there.
18th in
18th.
Arlington and the 21st in Phoenix.
Hey, I was close.
You were close, very close.
Interesting enough, I think I'll be right on my date. I'm taking the Lightroom live tour, which goes through the whole workflow from start to finish, and I'll be in Houston on March 9th. So if you want to come check any of those out, just go to kelbytraininglive.com. That said, let's turn it over to Dave.
So I thought I'd do something different because I never talk about smart objects.
Never.
Actually, yesterday I was doing a seminar in Tampa and I finished a class that had a lot of smart object stuff, and this guy came up and said, "You're like the smart object ninja." And I was like, "Oh, I'll take that." So the beauty of smart objects, of course, is that when you're doing a project that involves a lot of things that stay the same, but some things that change. For example, let's say we're doing a little layout for our billboard for our minor league baseball team, and I want to add player names, but be able to have a kind of a cool effect and change them on the fly. So I'm going to add a name, and my suggestion would be to make your life simpler. Look down the list of all the names you're going to do and pick the longest name you could possibly think of.
Hey, now.
Well, it's just long. So,
It's not my fault.
so I figured if that one fits, then everything's going to fit.
You could have just said Matt.
I know, but I wanted to make it even longer just to make sure
see how
I'd
it
covered my bases. So I'm going to make this as my starting point and right away convert it to a smart object. So right click and choose Convert to Smart Object. And there's a particular reason why I'm doing this, because I want to have a stroke around the outside of this type, but offset. Because here's what normally happens. If you just go and add a stroke, and let's put the stroke to, now that it's defaulting to white, I actually want something else like black. And
the way it happens.
Set it to outside. But you can see, while it's cool, what I want is a bit of a gap between the letters and the stroke, and there's no simple way to do that just by some setting. So one idea that I came up with that actually works kind of interesting is to duplicate the smart object. Then you add your stroke, which of course will default back to white again, since I had that as my default. So let's go back to black, outside. Now I'm not exactly sure of the numbers yet, so I'll come back to this in a second. But now I need to kind of make it offset. So the way that I do that is use a filter, kind of an interesting one, called Other Minimum, which I
thought you were going to go to offset.
I'd like to understand the theory of how it's minimum because it actually makes it larger, because I have never quite figured that part out. So I put this to something like 3 and then lower the fill opacity to 0. And now I have this nice little offset effect. So at this point, I could now go back to the stroke and decide, you know, what kind of thickness I wanted or whatever. And then at this point, select both of these layers, and now I could do something, you know, like free transform to make it look a little more interesting or whatever.
There's no way to make Matthew Kluskowski look interesting, Dave, trust me.
So I save this, and now I go down the list of the next player and say the next player's name is, you know, R.C.
Dave Cross.
Barker. Close and save it, and it's going to update everything very, very
updates both
quickly for me.
layers.
It updates both layers and the effect, and everything's done. So,
But the layers are still named Matthew Kluskowski.
That's right,
because it
they
knows.
always will be.
Yeah, it should be that way. So start with my name.
Now, of course, the key to this is each time you save as, because if you don't, you want to make a copy each time just so you're saving a new one with the new name. So you end up with all these separate files. So, but it's one of these things where you do a little bit of work up front, but because of smart objects, it's very easy to keep updating it every time you need to.
Yeah.
So.
Corey had an interesting.
I forgot.
Oh.
I was going to say you should have done Corey Concepcion. It's a lot longer name.
Well, yeah, I could have, but my
Seriously,
point was,
Corey, that's what you got to throw.
Yeah.
that was
That's all,
for the
all this information here, access to me, and that's all I've got.
Thanks for the thought, though. That was awesome.
All right. Well, actually, I think Corey does have a tip for us. So.
It's not that. It's like
No, that was not actually my tip. No, I do have a tip, actually. So I was talking about stacking filters. This is a feature. Now, for the 15 of you using filters in Photoshop, this will apply to you especially. Now, when you go to filters, you can certainly go to all these different categories and select a filter, but there's one up here called Filter Gallery. Now, if you go ahead and select that, it's going to open up this gigantic window, and it shows you a preview of the image, and it also shows these different categories of filters. Well, if I go in here, and let's go into the artistic one, and I go ahead and apply to something like poster edges, you can see it applies it, and I can go in here and modify the settings. But down here on the bottom part of the window, you have a kind of a layer panel, in a sense, in that you can click on this new icon and add another filter within this filter here. So we're going to add it, and what it does is it creates a duplicate of the existing filter. But it is highlighted. So if I go in here and choose another filter, let's, for instance, go into brush strokes, just something. This is one of the cool things where you can experiment with. Zoom in at work. There we go. So you just apply a spatter. And what it does is it combines the filters together. And you can actually go in here and, again, modify the settings, see what kind of results you get. And you can just keep adding new filters and just reapplying new settings. So we'll add another one here. Let's do a texture this time. We'll add a grain to it. So you can see there's a lot of different interesting things going on here. Now, the cool part is, over here in this layer stack, you can actually grab it and rearrange the order. And when you do that, it will change the appearance of the image, because where they appear in the stack determines how it appears depending on the type of filter it is applied. So not only can you modify each individual filter setting, but adjust the order altogether. And when you click OK, it goes ahead and applies that. Now, one thing you may want to do, in fact, I'm surprised Dave Cross isn't sneering at me right now, is that you make a duplicate and make the layer a smart object. And the reason you want to do that is that when you apply a filter, let's go back to that filter gallery. Now you'll notice when I reopen that filter gallery, it remembered those 3 filters that I had just applied. So I'm going to go ahead and keep those and click OK. But now the difference is I have it now as a smart object. So I can go in here and double click on that filter gallery, brings me right back to where I was, and I can adjust the settings. On top of that, you can double click on this other icon next to it and change things like the blend mode. You can go in here and change the blend mode to maybe overlay, and that will make those filters, those stacked filters, interact with the original image, again, giving you a lot of different creative possibilities with messing around with filters. But remember, to change it into that smart object, you'll get that many more options for it.
Awesome.
Yes. Remember that smart object part.
Yes, I'm sure Dave, the smart object whisperer.
He's going to throw a ninja star at me in a minute.
Like that one. So I think we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we have a contest to win prizes, including the fabulous Perfect Photo Suite from On One Software, a value of like $500.
5,000.
Okay, Canadian. And also a Photoshop World Pass, a value of $1 million in learning opportunities.
Yes.
So we'll do that when we come back. Stick with us and come right back, won't you?
Okay, this class is about environmental portraiture. It's going to be a really great class. That wasn't good. This is about a little-known specialty of mine, the hand painting of vintage black and white photographs. What? HDR. Let's do some HDR. I didn't use a bad word. You put one light over here and one light over there. And then, I did not say for the board game of who gets naked. I'm very articulate, and it'll be more fun than a barrel full of monkeys.
We are back from that break. Thank you for coming back. Matt came back, which is always important.
I did. You said, won't you? And I said, I will. So I'm here.
So why don't you explain, Matt, the slight change. Now we have this just for fun trivia thing, and then the way that they actually win a prize.
I have no freaking idea, Dave. It confuses the crap out of me. All right, so it's a trivia contest.
Trivia is just for fun.
No, it's trivia, just for fun. It's not a contest.
Right.
It's just trivia. If you go to kelbytv.com/PhotoshopUser TV, that was a reassuring look to say, yeah, okay, I got it right. Go to kelbytv.com/PhotoshopUser TV. Just leave us a comment. Okay? You can participate in the trivia thing, but it's not predicated on you getting the question right. We want everybody, even if you're not so smart in Photoshop, to be able to win our contest.
Because then you need stuff like this in Photoshop world. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thanks
I was
to
going to use a different word.
Yeah,
instead of not so smart seemed better.
Even that wasn't that good, but okay. So
I love how you did the not so smart in Photoshop.
two main prizes. The perfect suite from our friends at On One. This is a fantastic collection. Even just one or two of the individual products are pretty cool on their own, but there's a nice little suite of products. And of course, the Photoshop World Pass to Orlando. So go and make a comment if you're interested in just the trivia side, just for fun. Take a look at this dialog box and say, what the heck is this? And if you know the answer, then you can have fun and enter.
And if you're not so smart, you won't know the answer. So just say hi, guys. Enter me in the contest. All right.
We're just kidding with you, kind of.
I'm not.
Are we? No.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up another show, guys.
It does.
Thanks, Corey.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks, RC.
Thank you, guys.
I love when RC does the little silent.
Why won't you talk to me?
You know what we don't talk about enough?
Me.
Yes, we don't talk enough about Matt.
Thank you. I have feelings too. I'd really prefer all 30 minutes be about me.
He's a very sensitive individual.
Clearly the honeymoon's over.
Yes. Well, hey guys, thank you very much for sticking around. And our sponsors, thank you once again to On One Software, and also thank you to the NAPP and Photoshop World. Dave, you got anything to?
That's all. Just hope you'll come back next time. I'm sure it'll be much better. Maybe.
I'm pretty sure it won't be, but thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you again soon. Bye. To the jib, to the jib, to the jib I go.